Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with an obituary about the Franz Schubert of American song in the second half of the 20th century. I refer, of course, to Dolly Parton, who passed away today, August 25th, 2026. The woman was a genius, a musical genius, a natural genius. Not that she didn't have training. She did in the media in which she worked, principally, but it was experiential training. She was born dirt poor. I mean, dirt poor. Her father was a sharecropper and an occasional construction worker in a one-room shack in rural Tennessee, and she was one of 12 children. Her mother was the musical one in the family. Her father had a mind for business, and she had both. She was a smart cookie and a musical cookie, but she began playing music when she was like 3 or 4. I mean, Mozart and Mendelssohn didn't do more than she did. The only difference is that her circumstances were different. And so she had to work with what she had. She wasn't born into money. She didn't have the opportunity to go off to conservatoire. She didn't have musically professional members of her family. She had her mother, who sang to her and who was apparently quite musical, and other members of her family, uncles and others. Her uncle gave her first guitar when she was 7. She could play every instrument. I mean, she played the guitar, played the saxophone, she played the violin, she played... was she great at all of them equally? No, but she did it. And she did it with practically no training. But here's the thing. In the course of her career, which spanned... Well, she was 80 when she passed away, so you can do the math. About, 70 years, 60 some odd years, she wrote over 3,000 songs. Now, she would have been the first to say not all of them were great, but a heck of a lot of them were great. And, not just songs like Jolene, which was probably her biggest hit, a gorgeous, gorgeous song with its haunting modal harmony and melodic line. And it's not your typical love song. It's a tragic song begging a beautiful young woman not to steal her husband away. And it supposedly had its roots in a true story in her life. I mean, she was happily married for like 60 years, but, I'm sure they had issues. She and her husband. But she was, a model spouse by all accounts. It is phenomenal when you think that Jolene and her other most famous song, I Will Always Love You, which we know from the Whitney Houston cover for the most part, even more than her own recordings of it, which she did twice, and both times made it to like number 1 on the greatest hit charts, whichever chart we're talking about. It's not my field, but I know that. She wrote those 2 songs supposedly the same day. Remember Schubert doing things like that, churning out songs? She was the Schubert of our age. And her songs are just as good. One of the things that always blows my mind in the classical music world is the horrible snobbery of people who really should know better, because if they really pretend to know something about music, they would know that when you're comparing songs, the style, the idiom is less important than the form. Songs are songs. They have a verse, they have refrains, they have, a simple form. You need a great melody, you need a resonant text that is supported by the melody, and you have a great song. There is no difference between a song by Guillaume de Machaut, which consists of a single line of melody, after all, which would have had a guitar accompaniment or something like that, and a song by Dolly Parton. She was every bit as much a troubadour, and a great one, as the great troubadours of the Middle Ages were. And she wrote great songs. So there's Coat of Many Colors, there's 9 to 5. She was also an amazing actress. I loved 9 to 5. I thought the movie was hilarious. But, also The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas and Steel Magnolias and, the other things that she did on stage, on television. She was a person who apparently no one had a bad word to say about her. And I'm not going to start, despite this being an obituary. I mean, I didn't know her. I didn't even follow the gossip columns about her. I just knew her music. And I knew it was good music. And it was one of the things that fascinated me about the range of her songs, which was incredible, is that, they're not just about I love you, babe. They're not cliched songs. They're songs from life. She set life to music, human experience to music. It may be that she didn't write in large forms. That wasn't what she knew. But the range of what she did expressively is as wide as any composer who ever lived. I mean, think about, I Will Always Love You, which everyone thinks is, this wonderful love ballad. That was actually written as a memento to her business partner. Because, her original business partner, she was on his television show, but as she became more famous, she was more famous than he was. And so the partnership broke up, and she wrote, I Will Always Love You for him. It's not about love. It's about loving another person for other reasons than sexual. Jolene, of course, we've talked about. Coat of Many Colors. It's a story about how her mother put together a coat from scraps of fabric because that's all they had. And she wore it proudly to school, and she was relentlessly bullied because it was shabby. And her feelings about being ridiculed and bullied because this was all she had, and her pride in what her mother had done for her. These are things that are so moving and so human and so real, and so just tactile in their expressions of feeling, and she had the complete package. I do remember seeing her on television and whatnot, and some of her concert things and stuff on various media. She was only 5 feet tall. I always remember her being huge, being big, because her personality was big, her hair was big. She had a great humility. Her most famous line, they talked about, the rhinestones and the big hair and the makeup and all that, was she said, it costs a lot of money to look this cheap, which was just, she had no illusions about herself or what she wanted. She just was who she was. And she wrote music every day, practically. She was an amazing businesswoman, as we know. And an incredible philanthropist. When you think about all the things that she did, she funded research that led to the development of the Moderna COVID vaccine, and then was one of the first people to use it, to get vaccinated, tell everybody to get vaccinated. She funded children's hospitals. She was a tireless warrior on behalf of child literacy. She has a foundation, a charitable foundation. It operates this charity, the Imaginary Library, I think it's called. But, they've given away 300 million books in 6 countries. It's the U.S. and Ireland and the U.K. and Australia and basically all the English-speaking world, Canada, and essentially it provides a free book every month for the first 5 or 6 years of a child's life, and you just sign up, and these books arrive. It's extraordinary what she did, and and as part of her musical persona, she supported same-sex marriage. She supported, equality for transgender people. She was without prejudice. She was the wellspring of kindness and generosity and warmth and musical brilliance. Really, people don't appreciate it. In her world, of course, they do. because they knew her. But musically, when you listen to her songs, you hear the fullness of the human experience and the warmth and kindness and generosity of just a superior moral creature. And that's very, very rare. And it's something to be cherished. And I really believe that when it comes to evaluating, musical ability, you have to take it as it comes. In other words, you can't compare songs to symphonies, to operas. They're different. They're totally, totally different. You compare songs to songs. And as a songwriter, she was as great as they come. I really believe that. And I think that, the more her work is played and listened to and studied, yes, it repays being studied, the greater her reputation will be. We have so little appreciation, I think, for musical accomplishment when it doesn't happen along, the paths where everybody can sit back with their, snotty little, cultural flatus and say, oh, yes, that was greatness. Oh, yes, yeah. I mean, it angers me. It really angers me because there was greatness and generosity that was boundless in her personal life, in her philanthropies, and in her music. And you cannot listen to that music and not be aware of the bigness of spirit that it represents. So that's, and whether you like classical music or country music or whatever kind of music, it doesn't matter. Great music is great music. Sincere music is sincere music. And her music was as big as anybody has yet given us. So she left us with a life well lived and an enormous legacy that future generations are going to have to wrap their brains around and see, evaluate it for themselves. But that there was depth and meaning and musical appropriateness in just about everything that she did, I don't think there could be any question. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.